and we are live with Talia Wolf. Hi, Talia.
Hi.
It's a great pleasure to have you here with you at UXN Coffee. Basically, it's a place where we have coffee and have a casual conversation and talk about design. And Talia, I wanted because it's been really a long time since we met. Almost 2 years ago, I've been trying to get you to come to the UX Salon conference.
Oops.
But you are
Yes.
very busy, and if I want to tell people that like you're probably one of the most busiest speaker I know because you've been traveling the world and talking about emotional design, right?
Yeah.
Emotional for how long? Tell me a bit more about you. How did you started in this? Tell me,
Um,
give us your background.
okay. So I started by doing social media. It was something else that I was doing. And I slowly got interested in the field of conversion optimization. So not so much driving traffic to the website, but more understanding how to take that traffic and turn it into leads, downloads, and actual revenue. That was a really big thing for me. And at first, when I got started, I did random stuff. Like I read different blog posts and I kind of thought, oh, I'll change the color of the button or I'll change the headline and that will be fine. But slowly I realized that that wasn't the way to go. And I developed my own framework. I call it the emotional targeting methodology. I developed it along with two other partners of mine, from my previous agency. And I've been helping businesses optimize their websites, using emotion and persuasion, for the past, I want to say 7 years, but maybe more. And yeah, I do a lot of speaking. So most of my work is helping businesses optimize their websites. And I also do in-house training and workshops, and I speak all over the world. So yesterday I got back from Sweden. I spoke in a conference called Webdagarna. Hopefully I said that correctly. There were 1,600 people there. It was
Oh yeah,
really
I
cool.
saw that photo.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great. Wow,
it
yesterday you
was.
came back.
Yes. Now that I have a kid, so before I'd go and I'd spend a few days, I'd walk around town. Now it's like I go and I travel a lot. At least once a month I'm abroad, speaking somewhere. I go on one day and I try and get back the next.
That's why I'm so excited to have you finally. We have the date on May 6th, and you're coming for a talk, and then on May 7th, a workshop. So, and I wanted to kind of talk to you about like what we're going to do in the conference, and maybe kind of dig into what is emotional targeting.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit, give
Um,
me some background. What is emotional targeting? What is it for me as a designer? Um, what do we need to know?
okay. So the basic of it is that when a company's thinking about improving and growing, or growing their business or improving conversions, um, most businesses, when I ask them who their customer is, I get kind of a long list of behavioral elements. So my customer is 23, between 23 and 35, male, lives in the suburbs, drives this kind of car, 1.2 kids, uses this device, this browser, and it's very technical. Um, the whole idea of emotional targeting is actually taking a step further than treating your customers like points of data and understanding that behind those screens, there are people. Now, every decision that we make, and in fact, every conversion that we have on our website is someone's decision-making process. So when someone makes a decision to buy from you, that is the conversion. And the idea of emotional targeting is to understand why people buy from you. What is the raw, real reason that people buy from you? Now, most companies, when you ask them why do people buy from you, they will say, well, we have these amazing features, or we have the best product, or our team is great, or pricing, or whatever it is. But that is not why people buy. People actually buy on emotion, and it's very hard for people to accept that, but every decision we make in life has an emotional reason to it. When we buy something, we're essentially buying a better version of ourselves. Better marketer, a better father, maybe. Maybe I want to be a better employee. Maybe I want someone to appreciate me more. Whatever it is, there's always an emotion attached to it. And my job with emotional targeting is to understand that. It's to understand the emotional drivers, the hesitations, the concerns. What is that baggage that people come with to your website? What is the problem that they're experiencing? And solve that on the page. And that for me is conversion optimization. So conversion optimization isn't about changing elements on the page. It's about understanding your customer's problem and then solving that on the page. And that will improve your conversions and your revenue and everything.
What is a better version of myself? What does that mean?
Of yourself specifically? Or just
How can I get it today? How can I buy it?
That's a good question. I mean, every client I work with is completely different, right? You need to do a lot of research in order to understand that. Now, if you can understand those emotional motivations, those emotional drivers of your customers. So for example, if you're a B2B company and you're selling a communicational platform or a SaaS, whatever SaaS platform it is, if you can understand what is the pain that your customer is trying to solve, it's easier for you to then choose the right copy, the right design, the psychological colors, the right cognitive biases that will impact them, the right social proof. So it's about doing extensive research, and it's not the same. So your emotional drivers are obviously not the same as mine, and they vary from product to product. If you're buying something for yourself, if you're buying something for a company, if you're buying something for your son, whatever it is, your emotional drivers change all the time according to what you're about to buy and the baggage that you come with. And then once you identify that, once I know what my customer or my prospect feels right now, what are their emotional drivers, what they would like to feel, it's easier for me to then optimize the page because I know exactly what to show them, how to make them feel on the page using the right copy and design and images and colors.
That's very fascinating. Before I ask the next question, I want to say to the people who are watching, please feel free to say hello and ask questions. I'm monitoring the stream here. So if you have a question to Talia, write it down and I will ask her, I promise. So for my next question. So this is fascinating. So basically you kind of mediate between what people want to what the customer wants and kind of find a way to kind of match these two, right? Through colors, but you know, right? Through colors, through copy, through understanding.
Yeah, through design. I mean, it's the whole thing. So it's not just, you know, how do I design a better form or how do I create a better navigation or a copy, you know, a headline. It's about the whole experience. So I look at the experience from start to finish. And the idea is that you have a funnel. Now people come in at all different stages of awareness and people come in from all different points. So maybe I came in from an ad at first, I left, came back a week later, came back a month later from a different place. But my goal is to look at the entire experience and be able to create one that matches the end user's goals. So you mentioned that I'm trying to kind of bridge the gap between my clients and their prospects. But one of the first things I say to them is that I don't think it matters what your goals are. So I'm not saying that your business goals aren't important, but if you care more about your customers' goals, then your goals are actually going to be achieved. So if your customers can achieve their goals, you will achieve your goals and your conversions and all the growth. So that's kind of how I helped to bridge that, helping clients and students that study in my courses to understand who their customers are and then show them the right content on the page, everything that will show them that you are the right person for them, the one person or the one business and solution that will solve their pain.
Okay, so I have a question from the audience. Michal, I think, asking, how can you know what different users feel? How do you do research? So this is great because we talked about interviews a little bit before. Tell me a bit more.
Yeah. So the emotional targeting methodology has many different steps to it. There's the analytical part, which is important. So you're looking at Google Analytics and you're looking at heat maps and click maps and maybe any data that you can drive, and kind of understand and look and see where the problem is in the funnel. Is it on your landing page? Is it on the website? Is it on your blog? Finding that problem. The next stage of emotional targeting is doing the user research. And that actually consists of many different steps. Now, not everyone feels the same. Not everyone has the same emotional drivers. But parts of the research include competitor research, SWOT, team interviews, customer surveys, marketing research, benchmark research, and other things. So there's a lot of different aspects of it. And the idea here is that I'm looking for common themes. So for example, I will do a survey on a website and I will try and get as many replies as possible. And I go through thousands of replies to see the main complaints that come up from people, the main concerns that people are voicing, or the praises that people are using. And I'll do the same if I go and I do a competitor research. So I don't look at what the competitor's doing because that doesn't matter. What matters is what are people saying about them? What are the reviews that they're getting? What are people annoyed about? What are people happy about? If you look at that, it's really interesting because these are people that should be buying from you and they're buying from your competitor. And if you can find those specific raw emotions that what they're annoyed about, you can then say, wow, a lot of the reviews are about the fact that they were worried about safety. Now, I have a client that used to feel that way and they don't feel that way anymore. And I can reach out to that person and say, do you mind providing me a quote specifically about that issue? That's what social proof is about. You put that on your homepage or on your landing page. And instead of having just a general social proof quote saying, hey, this company is the best, you have them tackling a problem that you know that almost all your prospects feel without you saying it. Your client is saying it. So it's constantly talking to people, reviewing surveys, looking at the data, and trying to figure out what are the common things that keep coming up. And of course, A/B testing. So I'm constantly trying to test things and see what works and what doesn't. Customer interviews is the best way that I know to really understand people better, and kind of get into their head, especially when it comes to copy. I don't know if any of you guys have ever felt this, but you can sit sometimes in front of a page and just stare at it for like hours because you have no idea what to write. And you don't need to do that because you don't have to make up words. You can use your customers. So if you actually survey them or talk to them on the phone, you'll suddenly hear all sorts of things that you can use as actual headlines and quotes on your page. So speaking to your customers is the 101 of finding those emotions.
Customer interviews. You don't interview, but do you interview also your client?
Yes. So I do both things. I do customer interviews and customer surveys on one side. And then on the other hand, I send a questionnaire to the client, or I do team interviews. And the idea is to see the gap between what the clients are saying and what the customers are saying. Like, what is my client saying and what are the end users saying? And seeing if many times people don't get voiced in the company. So there's particular people that always kind of make their say. They're the ones that are correct. They are the ones that know everything. But then if you suddenly speak to someone at support, or you speak to someone from email marketing, or anyone in the company, they suddenly have this brilliant idea that, or they suddenly say, you know, many people say that this is the thing that worries them the most, or this is the thing that they love the most. And it gives you greater insight into who your customer is. So you have to do both.
Okay. I have a question from the audience. Can you share, maybe tell us more about the real life examples? Where have you seen success? Like, what kind of things have you seen that people can learn from, maybe?
So I actually have a lot of case studies. I don't have them here with me to share, but here's the thing. The way I measure my work is I do A/B testing. So I do all the research, which is great, but it's an hypothesis. My goal is to test it and see the results, and I judge myself according to the results that I get. Do my clients not only turn more visitors into customers, but are they seeing higher retention rates, so lifetime customers, and are they able to learn more? So one of the amazing things about A/B testing is that you can learn when you do the emotional part of it, you learn more about your customers, and then you can spread that knowledge within the company. So if you know that your customers are motivated by the fact that they feel lonely and they want to feel loved, you can communicate that to everyone in the company, in email marketing, support, sales, and everywhere. But yeah, some companies have increased their revenue by 10 times, double whatever it is that, that they're looking for, depending on the company. And they've learned a lot. So I work a lot with e-commerce sites and B2B, which are kind of my favorite, and they're very different, which is really cool. And they all see a significant increase in conversion rates and in growth in their company. And they also see that the silos are broken in the company. So it's no longer each team is working on different things and people are saying different things. Everyone comes together and works together. So the results have been outstanding. I'm really excited about it because I get to learn every time. And it's also really cool because instead of guessing and saying, I have a gut feeling that if I change the button color, that will work, I have an hypothesis. I come into a test saying, I think that this is what people want to feel. I think that this is how I can solve their problem. And when you get the result, whether you increase conversions or not, you've learned something, and you can understand if that's the way to go, or if you want to analyze and iterate and create a new variation. But the results are great. The results are really cool. I've got a load of case studies I can share with you later on.
Okay. So tell me, what are the cognitive biases? You talk about that. What does that mean exactly in design?
In design. So just a general thing, cognitive biases is basically the tendency of our brain to do things without us knowing. So we love to think of ourselves as rational people that make rational decisions, but our brain actually makes decisions according to what's in front of it. So the most famous examples, Dan Ariely talks about this all the time, are things that they do in design. So you have a checkbox in a form that says, I want to receive e-commerce emails from you or sales emails from you, and you can have it checked already. Those are kind of little tricks that companies do that are in the gray area to make you, because basically your brain has a more tendency to touch something than to take it off. So basically to kind of turn it on than to turn it off. Cognitive biases are our brain's tendency to make decisions in different ways. So, and there are thousands of cognitive biases, I'm afraid. I actually have a list of a couple of hundred of them, how I use them in my optimization. So different things like scarcity, urgency, all these things are cognitive biases. When you hear there's only 5 left, or if you hear there's only 20 minutes left to buy something, that is a cognitive bias that works on you. There's foot in the door technique. So when someone takes one step, they're more prone to taking another. So for example, there's a reason why they tell you to break forms into 2 or 3 sections. Get someone to complete one step, and then when you ask them for another, they're basically more prone to do that. So it's easier than having a very long form, having 2 or 3 things and then asking them to do something else. That's actually a cognitive bias that I use a lot with surveys. It's quite hard to get people to answer your surveys, so what I do is I put them on the thank you page. Once someone has converted, I don't send them to their email to get a thank you email. On the thank you page itself, I say, do you mind answering one question? Now, these people have given me their credit card, or they've already downloaded something. So it's nothing to them to just answer one other question. And usually you get 10 times the responses on a survey just because they took a step before. So cognitive biases are just, you need to understand how our brain makes decisions and the different things that kind of impact us, and then use that in your copy and your design.
Cool. That's very cool. So basically, there's a little tricks. Cognitive biases are tricks. If we know them, we can harness them to.
Yeah, it's tricks that our brain plays on us, and you have to understand them, because they can also hurt you as a designer or as a copywriter, because you need to understand that if you place, for example, too many calls to action in one place, you can confuse someone. Or if there's too many options, there's something called analysis paralysis. So if you have more than 3 options on a page, people usually have analysis paralysis, I can't choose, I'll choose another time, and they leave. So you need to understand these biases in order to either use them to your advantage or to avoid them and make sure that you're not hitting those biases.
Do people ask you about ethical issues in this place? How does it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. You know, in Europe now, there is a whole committee just for that, for the gray persuasion, gray psychology that's going on. There's a lot of really bad things going on the web. Pre-signed save my credit card things, and please check here if you do not want us to keep your credit card number, all sorts of things like that. So it is definitely knowing how to balance things. You don't want to abuse these biases. You want to understand how people make decisions and help them reach the one that's right for them. You can, it's like having an ad with a very maybe provocative photo and picture on it, and people will click at it. But if they click on it, but then at the end of the day, when you look at the revenue, that's going to tank. So it's the same. You can use cognitive biases in a bad way, but at the end of the day, when you look at your revenue and your conversion rates, they're going to tank because you are lying to people. So
for the long run, do no evil.
Exactly, of course.
Okay, so a question from the audience. How do you reach the customers to ask them questions?
Awesome. So there's a few things. Number one is the email approach. And it also depends on what type of customers you want. There's researching actual clients of yours and customers who have already converted, and you want to understand why they did so that you can convert other people. And there's researching people who never converted and trying to figure out what happened and why they didn't. If we're talking about actual customers of yours that you want to survey or you want to interview, there's a few ways. So one of them is via email, reaching out to them. I usually suggest doing that within the first 24 hours of the conversion. Reaching out and saying, hey, we'd love to ask you a question or two. A great way to do that is to ask one question. And then, as we said before, foot in the door technique. When they answer one, they might be more prone to answering additional. What I like to do is that when I send out surveys, you'll notice that some people just answer like really quickly with one word. And then there's some people that are a lot more elaborate and they will tell you their whole life story. Those are the people that I try to target for a phone call. So I will reach out to them and say, hey, I'm giving out, a voucher for a coffee, or would you be able to jump on a call with me for 10 minutes? That's all I need from you, to just answer my questions. Another thing is you can use Typeform. I don't know if you know of it, but
I know of it.
Typeform is amazing, for doing short, quick, and easy, surveys. So you can send that out. The thank you page is the most underutilized, let's say, asset on a website. Most people, when someone converts, they just have a pop-up that says thank you and check your email. Or if they do have a thank you page, it just says thank you, check your email. That is a really important asset of yours that you can use to ask people questions. So that's a great thing to do. And that is for customers. So reaching out via email, via thank you page, and then asking the people that actually elaborated to get on the phone with you. For people that are on your website and haven't converted, I suggest using polls and surveys. Now you can use tools like Hotjar for doing that. They have great things. They have great tools for that. But what you want to do, and this is really important, is not to show the survey to everyone. The best thing to do is to actually reach out to the most engaged. And there are many tools out there that help you do this. So someone who is a returning user maybe and still hasn't converted, someone who's scrolled 50% of the page, who is about to exit, but not those exit pop-ups, but someone who's seen 5 pages and is now about to exit the site. So there's all sorts of things you want to segment, know when to show it to the right person, and then know what to ask. And you can decide when to show it to the right person by looking at Google Analytics. Identify the biggest drops. So people that are not just dropping on the homepage, like the bounce rate, people that make it to 2, 3, 4 pages. What is the page that they drop off? And then put the survey in there so that you know that you're reaching the right people that are genuinely interested in your product. They're usually product aware or solution aware. and now you want to figure out what the problem is. And you can ask them one question, two questions. It's also the art of knowing what to ask. I don't know, I'm going on and on here, but
That's interesting. Keep going. Yes.
It's also knowing what to ask. Don't ask, do you like our website? Or why didn't you buy from us today? You need to know like the right question to ask in order to get the right responses. And one of the things that you'll notice is that when you do ask people questions, they will answer rationally. So if you ask them, why did you buy from us? They will say, well, you had a lot of features or you had the best pricing. But that's not the answer that you're looking for. You don't want that. You want to get to the additional layer, the lower layer of those emotional drivers. And to do that, there's a cool technique called the 5 whys. So you just keep asking why until there's no whys left. So you just, if someone says the features, you say, why did you need more features? And they might say, well, you know, we wanted something different. Why do you need something different? And you keep asking why, and you get to that layer where suddenly they say, you know, I was feeling X, Y, and Z, and I really needed that. So just keep asking why, and don't be afraid to do that.
Okay. That's very cool. That's very fascinating. More, by the way, if people are interested more in the workshop that you're going to give, it's a shameless plug to the conference in
right.
But okay, but I want to ask one more thing, which I was curious about when I was reading through some of the stuff you were talking about previously, using color in psychology. Because to me that sounds, I mean, yes, of course we know that red means alert and green means good. No?
No, that's not what it does.
So tell me.
That's wrong. Don't spread that message.
Okay, no. So this is what I know about color, using color in design. What do I need to know more?
Color psychology, everyone loves to talk about it. It's like a big thing. Blue means trust, red means alert. Not all colors have the same meaning to everyone. Colors affect us on 3 different levels, emotional, culture, and symbol. So yellow affects me in a different way that it affects you. White affects us in Israel differently than it affects someone in Asia, for example. Yeah. So before you choose the colors that you want to use to create a certain feeling, you need to know who your target audience is, what age they are, what gender they are, where they're from in the world, and their culture and their emotional experience. So I might have grown up in a pink room and I hate pink now, so having a whole pink website isn't going to convert me. Now, obviously you can't go down to those minute, small, emotional experiences, but you need to make sure that you're not using color psychology just because there's a beautiful infographic on some website that says blue means trust, because it doesn't work that way. But you can use colors in a very cool way to make people feel a certain way, and also as directional cues, which I'm sure you know very well of as a UX guy. But colors should be used to tell people what to do. So when they see yellow, they know that is the button everywhere on the website or all through their customer journey. So it's about knowing how that's going to make people feel, and then also using color in a way that will direct people down the journey. Does that make sense?
So using color in psychology is not about what it makes you feel, because that's very culturally driven. Using it for...
color psychology makes people feel things in a certain way, and it can impact your conversions. It can impact people's feelings towards you, but it's not that one universal color means one thing. It's not that green always means fresh and healthy. You need to understand your target audience, who they are, before you choose a color. Just because someone told you that blue equals trust, and that's why all the banks are using blue, doesn't mean that you need to use blue to kind of symbolize trust. A cool example, by the way, is that in some cultures, blue makes you feel calm, and it makes, and there's a problem in Africa with the speed of the internet there. So, many companies that target African, users in Africa, in South Africa, or all through Africa, use blue to make them patient because the website takes too long to load. So it's just like knowing your target audience,
Uh-huh.
understanding what colors to use for that, and then kind of mixing them together.
Okay. I think there's much more to it, but unfortunately, I ran out of coffee, which means we are like out of time. And it was a pleasure, and I'm really, really, really looking forward to see your talk at the UX Salon conference. It's going to be fascinating because it's just I'm excited about it. So
Yeah,
next,
I am too.
and you're going to speak in Israel, which is a rare thing, right?
Yes, I don't do that a lot. So that's really, really cool. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much, and thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.
Thank you.